everyone. I am Nancy Becker, the president and founder of Invisible Warriors. Welcome to Silent Strength, a podcast dedicated to honoring the extraordinary women veterans who have faced the profound challenges of PTS and military sexual trauma. Our journey began with a simple yet powerful mission to give voice to those whose strength often goes unseen. We believe in the power of stories to heal, connect, and transform. This podcast is a space where women veterans can share their experiences, offering hope and solidarity to others navigating similar paths. Each episode delves into the unique and personal stories of courageous women, highlighting their resilience and the battles they continue to fight long after their service has ended. We bring in expert voices to provide insights and strategies, creating a deeper understanding of the complexities these veterans face. Silent Strength is more than just a podcast. It's a community where listeners can find support and inspiration. For veterans adjusting to life after service, or for those who wish to stand with them, our podcast is an invitation to listen, learn, and grow together. We are committed to breaking the silence surrounding PTS and military sexual trauma, creating a platform where these critical conversations can thrive. It's about acknowledging the unseen scars and celebrating the strength it takes to overcome them. Today, we are honored to have a guest who will share their personal journey, shedding light on challenges and triumphs. Their story is a testament to the resilience and courage that define the community and how they share with others. Join us in this vital dialogue and discover the power of shared experiences. Together, we can build a network of understanding and support, ensuring that no veteran feels alone on their journey. Welcome, Dr. Laurel Mellin, to Silent Strength. We're so glad you're here.
Oh, Nancy, I feel so grateful to be here with you. I just admire what you're doing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And after a long week like this, I need it. So, Dr. Mellon, tell us what brings you here and why you decided you wanted to be a part of this show.
Oh, I wanted to be a part of this show because my life's work for the last 45 years has been to get to the root cause of why we suffer. And it turns out that why we suffer is because of our trauma, because that trauma gets stored in our emotional brain, specifically in our amygdala, the size of a peanut, and all these circuits get stored there. And the difference between how quickly we recover and move beyond or not is whether we know how to roust out those circuits of trauma and essentially emotionally process them through some rather simple and deep skills. And so this method that I've really given my life to, 7 days a week for 45 years, is called Emotional Brain Training, EBT. And it's a skill set that you add to your toolkit because you can have a lot of different things. You have medications, you have support groups, there's so much. But this is actually shockingly simple and very, very deep and scientifically proven that you can actually use emotions, your natural emotions that are part of your ability to have the resiliency pathways in your brain, to take those fear memories and actually unravel them. And this is the important thing, Nancy, and I know you know this personally. Under our stress is amazing joy that no other people have had before, except for our particular variety of that joy. Because if we go into our pain, what our DNA, everyone has the same DNA, that it will come out the other side, sometimes with a lot more emotional processing than other times. But we not only can have joy, our essence is joy. And that's what these tools help people create in their lives. And that's why I'm here.
That is absolutely fascinating, and I'm thinking about that and going for so many of these women and just people in general that have so many of these traumas. they can't imagine having joy in their life. And the ability to say to them, there is hope that you can have a happy, joyful life on the other side of this is so powerful. And why wouldn't somebody want that?
Well, it's because it's scary. And actually, there's brain science to show that people won't want it. And the reason they won't want it is not because of this is a method, by the way, that it's not. I'm a health psychologist. I'm not a clinical psychologist. I spent 42 years at the University of California, San Francisco as a faculty member studying this, but it is not basically psychological, it is biological. And biologically, if we've had adverse childhood experiences, which many, many people do, most people do actually, but some a lot worse than others, and later trauma, and you're talking about being a veteran, you're talking about trauma, what happens in the brain is the brain says, okay, I get it. The norm for you is stress overload. So I'm going to set your brain for stress overload. And I'm going to convince your brain that this is the way life is, that there is no hope, that this biochemical stress hormone cascade of inflammation and extremes of emotions, thoughts, and behaviors is your norm, and there's no way out. The brain does that. It tries to fool us into believing there is no hope and joy. Other people can have joy, but we've been left out.
Fascinating. I'm sitting here going, wow. And so how does this work? What what do you need to do to get a person from this horrible traumatic experience into a life full of thriving, joyful life?
Well, the first part of that, Nancy, oddly enough, in fact, almost everything in EBT is counterintuitive. It's the opposite of what you've been told. And the first thing in order to get better is to complain. And
I love
each time you to complain, you must complain.
I
You
love it.
you're gonna love this even more after you complain. And I mean, literally, you have to feel like you're 2 years old or 4 years old because that's the part of the brain we're dealing with. And you have to say, okay, the situation is this and this and this and this, and you have to have a little bit of, a ramp up. You have to care enough about yourself and love yourself enough to have strong emotions that you have been hurt as much as you've been hurt. And if you don't can't stand up with yourself, nobody's going to stand up for you. You have to stand up and say, this really hurts. Okay? And I'm saying that on a global level of the overarching idea of emotional brain training, but also every time you use the skills, you do the same thing. You
it.
start by complaining. Don't minimize it. Don't pretend it's different than it is. It is, and it's really bad. And then
Yes.
once you do that, something beautiful happens. And you won't believe this, Nancy. The exact circuit that's amplifying your suffering, not the original insult, but the way you're fanning the flames of it and prolonging it, unlocks in your brain. And a brain scan can't do that. But your brain, your DNA has given you a brain that will open the exact target and open the exact circuit that is making you suffer just by complaining. Now, if you continue to complain, let's say you go to a therapist and you just talk on and on and on, you ruin the opportunity to transform your life because your brain wants you to activate the circuit, have feelings, and then instead of closing down, which is what happens if we don't have emotional processing tools of EBT, and they are unique, and they do apply to all people, your brain shuts down because you hit an emotional blockade. And some people it's depression, some people it's hostility, some people it's anxiety, some people it's numbness, some people it's a false high. But it doesn't really matter what the feeling is. What matters is the blockade stops you from functioning. And in that blocked functioning, the brain is really nasty. What it does is it activates any circuit you've had from the past that has gone to excess. So it reflexively tells you to do things that are completely ineffective, impossible, and even harmful because it's done it before. It hits a circuit like a panic button, says, okay, You hit the wall here, you're going to go repeat whatever you did before. Eat, drink, spend, sit down, whatever that, go to get depressed. Be okay. And in the meantime, your thinking brain's not working. You can't do anything about it. And then you do things you really regret. And at that point, you say enough already and you just somehow escape any way you can. What EBT does is after you complain, and then after you clarify exactly what you're most stressed about, life sucks, I hate myself, I have no power, whatever that is, whatever your complaint is, that big old, that big old wall of stuck emotions comes up. EBT says, not so much. I'm not going to let you do that. I'm going to give you a tool that will basically penetrate that wall of stuck emotions. And you're going to get right into your unconscious mind where the information you need to heal resides. And then I'm going to give you that information of exactly what that faulty message is and keep the circuit unlocked so that if you give yourself the opposite message, it will actually erase the old circuit. First, it'll start weakening it and then erasing it. And that's what EBT does. It is called the cycle tool. It is the solution, and it gets you right into that brain. And then what it does is this is so beautiful. After you have gone through that wall because you've expressed anger, and you have to be really angry. You have to be angry enough to sort of crack yourself open and say, I hate it, I hate it, I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. But it only lasts about a minute. And the way you learn to do it in EBT, the anger clears the stress, lasts about a minute, and then it opens up not only the unconscious mind, but all of a sudden your emotions, instead of being depressed, you just feel this tender, sweet sadness. And you flow into very reasonable fear that you really should face that fear. And then where your power is. And all of a sudden, you can then rewrite whatever that message is that was wrong, that amplified it a little bit or a lot, but every time you change your brain and you come back to one feeling, joy. And the reason you come back to joy is because the brain rewards us through our DNA for evolving. The brain always rewards evolving because if we didn't evolve, we would be extinct. So the brain will, whatever we do when we're stressed, it's going to remember. And when we update what we've done, because we've processed our emotions, it immediately rewards us with dopamine to lock in the new memory, to diminish the old memory, and gives us this beautiful feeling of happiness. Now, if you have PTSD and you are right there stuck in that state, it'll give you that joy moment or joy point for a nanosecond or a few seconds or 3 seconds. And the next time you do it, it'll be 4 seconds. And the next time, and so over time, you actually wind your way out of those faulty circuits and you wire your brain out of stress overload and into that state of joy.
Fascinating. That was actually what I was going to ask you. I've got two questions. The first one is obviously this isn't a one and done. It's something that takes time.
Yes.
Um, Different for each person.
Yes. The process is the same for all people. Because even though we're very different in our thinking brain, we're all the same in our survival brain, because that's how the survival is. Very simple down there. And, it's essentially between your ears, right around here. You start by saying, what? What's going on anyway? And you get into a group. We have to be with other people because this is social. You need love. You need to listen to other people use these tools to what we call spiral up out of stress to joy. Because you learn our brains have no walls in them, our emotional brains. So when you listen to somebody else, your brain gets changed just by listening. So it's a community, it's a gathering. So you first get the app, and then every single day, there's a drop-in group where you can just go and it's completely anonymous. And you just listen and you soak it in and you say, oh, I get it. Now I'm starting to get it. And you watch some videos and you learn how to actually work with your own best friend, which is your emotional brain. You do that for about a month. And in that month, you actually get the body feel that you have power over your emotions. And there's several tools that are just for for stress overload and PTSD because it goes right down to the circuits at the very bottom of the brain and it helps you quiet them. One's called the damage control tool. The other is the compassion tool. There's another one called the anger cycle where you get the anger out and it turns into gratitude. So these tools are just meant for when you first start and you're really stuck. And then you learn there's 5 different levels of stress in the brain. The stress level 1 is joy, and that's the top of your brain is in charge. Everything's hunky-dory, happy memories, all that. 2, you're still at the top there, you feel pretty good. Once you go to the middle of your brain, brain state 3, which is a little stressed, you're on shaky ground because you have a different kind of circuit. This is really important. You have a different kind of circuit that is controlling you instead of one that's kind of like having both air conditioning and heat in your home, so it kind of buffers it, so you always stay in a pretty good area. These circuits are actually meant to freak you out because what they're meant to do is saying you have now exceeded your stress load. Thank you very much. And we're going to save you by we are going to give you a different kind of circuit that doesn't have any bumpers on it. In fact, it likes to make you go out of control. There are no shut-off valves. That's why even before you had as much trauma as you have now, you would let's say get in an argument with somebody, and then you went from being very sensible to really being in a fight, and you just can't get out of it, particularly with a spouse or someone that's really important to you. Or you start, let's say, an eating binge, and you take a little bit, and then you just can't stop. That's because these moods and these behaviors are controlled by these circuits in the bottom of your brain that are stress overload circuits, and they're meant just to go forever. So you are really trapped. So it's your 3, 4, and 5, and in that zone, you're going to feel terrible. But what happens is after you've used the app and been in these groups and listened to other people, and every single day there's a health professional there to listen, who's trained in this, who has trauma themselves, because we all do, some more than others, you get bored because you say, okay, I know how to get out of like stress to feeling better. And your brain wants you to evolve. Your brain wants you to learn, change, and grow and become a healthier, happier person so you can give back to the universe, right? Because it's all about survival. So what happens is you get bored and you say, okay, I want more. So then the second month, in the second 2 months, you pick 4 circuits that are really stuck places in your brain. Like maybe you get into a mood of panic or hostility or depression or shame. And you get into this mood, and it doesn't even feel like a mood. It feels like almost like I'm using a substance. I kind of like check out and I check into this mood state, and then it gets stuck there. It's almost like a refuge from really feeling your feelings. It goes into these really negative feelings oftentimes, but they get stuck there. That's just a wire in your brain that's been conditioned to take you to that mood and stick you there. So you rewire the mood circuit. There's probably a habit that you're in, whether it's eating, drinking, spending, whatever that is, a habit that you don't like. Maybe it's a work habit, um, but that you don't like. You find the circuit that is triggering you to stay in that space and you erase it. A relationship circuit also, like merging with people and overgiving or distancing and putting up walls. You do those 3 circuits, plus there's a bonus circuit either to love your body, to change your role in life, some of your work habits. Something else is a fourth one. So everyone does 4 of these circuits. By that time, their brain has been unlocked from stress, and then they continue until their brain is just wired where their brain likes to stay. It naturally goes back to that state of connection that we call joy.
I'm my brain is just being overloaded right now, just thinking about all of these things. You keep talking about an amp. So the question comes up, okay, so we don't need to go see a therapist 3 times a week. We don't need, to have our insurance cover it and our employers know that we're going through all of these things. This is something that you do on your own that's private, correct?
Well, first of all, if you're taking medications, continue taking your medications. These circuits in the brain that we're dealing with control your stress center, your reward center, and your metabolic centers. They control your entire physiology. Your health will be improving. But most important is keep on all the medications you have, and only when you no longer need them or need lower dose do you change, and then you do that with your physician. Also, you can't have enough attention because loving connection is what we all need. So be part of this, your community, be part of your therapy. All you're doing is bolting on EBT, and what you'll see is that all the other methods work much better when you're turning off those stress chemicals and you're directly attacking any circuit that is getting in the way of your joy. When you have actual control over the circuits in your brain that are really causing the problems.
So, but it's something that you have on your phone, correct? Is that what I'm
Yes, you
understanding?
have an app where you can push one, it's one, two, or three. If you want to spend 1 minute just to feel better and clear some of the emotions, you push number one. That's an instant boost. If you want there's 5 levels of stress in the brain and 5 different tools, one for each stress level, because you're processing emotions and emotions behave very differently at different stress levels. So it's not never one size fits all. So you have another option where you can spend 2 to 3 minutes and you have a choice of all 5 of these tools: damage control, cycle tool, flow tool, compassion tool, feelings tool, and you fit your stress level to what tool it is, and they all end up feeling better. Then you can press 3 and you learn how to do this. You've got to watch videos. You have to work at this. I mean, your best friend is your emotional brain, but you've got to learn how to use this app.
Mhm.
And you've got to drop into these sessions, and even you can be part of a group if you join a group. And what you're doing is you're listening to others, you're supporting other people. They listen to you as you use the app. You listen to them, and both of you bring each other up. And so you're doing it on your own in that it is private, it is confidential. You can also, and quite frankly, I think you know this, but people don't talk about it,
Yeah.
that when you are in stress, you have suppressed emotions that become incredibly extreme. They're also never were filtered by your thinking brain. So a lot of the thoughts you have and the beliefs you have and the expectations you have are completely ridiculous. But they're not ridiculous to us when we're in that state because our thinking brain's offline and the brain tags those beliefs as the absolute and complete truth because we were in stress overload when they were encoded and we weren't killed by a lion. So it assumes that whatever we survive then, even if it's I hate myself, or life sucks, or there is no hope, or I'm worthless, or I can't do anything right, or I get my safety from drinking myself silly or eating myself into oblivion, or whatever we're doing, that information is stored in the emotional brain. And what you do with EBT is you complain about what you're doing that you want to stop doing. Like, I hate myself, or I can't get out of bed, or it doesn't matter what. You learn the process and it works for everything. And then what happens is when you begin to express those feelings, your anger, your sadness, your fear and guilt, you're going to be really surprised at what comes out. When you go to your therapist and start talking about all the things that are bothering you, that's coming mainly from your conscious mind. But the real world we live in is our unconscious mind. And unless we drill down and then allow ourselves to freely, without judgment, express it, it only takes about, somewhere in when you're connecting with somebody else that are listening to you with this, the skills take maybe 5 minutes, maybe 6 or 7, no more than 8 minutes. But the stuff that you'll say will surprise you. And that's why you can use the app all by yourself. I mean, for example, my father was very, very ill. My mother died, and I was a caretaker for my father for 9 years. I love my father. He's now passed away. I mean, I love him with all my heart. But I have 3 children, raising as a single parent. I have a full-time job. I'm running a nonprofit. I'm doing all this stuff, totally exhausted. And there were times when I hated my father. You know,
Mhm.
I hated him. And and I'm not ashamed to say that because it came out of my reptilian brain because my stress chemicals are really nasty. But it's not until I express some of that without judgment that I clear it away. Otherwise, I'm stuffing it down for the rest of my life. So
Mhm.
this community, EBT.org, this community gives people a place to know that there's only two kinds of people in this world, people who stuff their feelings and people who don't stuff their feelings. And in EBT, it's a safe way to clear your emotions and clear those circuits so you can evolve and use that adversity, that trauma in a way to make yourself happier and healthier. And you do it with other people that are not stuffing their feelings, they're clearing these circuits out and they're changing the set point of their brain. And that's what we're really about, so that we can give back more, so we can be of service.
And in order to do this, it's all done through this app. Yes?
Well, it's done with therapy. In other words, we train therapists. We would love to have every single military therapist trained in EBT. If every single therapist in the military was trained in EBT, I think we'd have a major shift in what veterans do. None of them are trained. They've never paid. It's something like $399 to be trained in this method. No one's ever trained someone from the military, not one person so far. We aim to change that, and that's why we're doing these podcasts because they all need to be trained in it. And once they're trained in it, when you go to a therapy session, you're not going to sit there for 50 minutes and complain. You're going to sit there for about 5 minutes and talk to them, and then you're going to start using EBT, and they're going to have you enjoy with the circuits changed. Maybe it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take maybe 3 months before you say, oh my gosh. It'll take about 6 weeks and you'll say, whatever this is, I want more of it. And then you're in 3 or 4 months, you're going to say, my health is really changing. And from then on, you're just going to stay with it. But every single therapist should have this for themselves because they have secondary stress too, all care providers. And so, but also the old model, and I just gave a talk on this just before, the old model of therapy is wrong. It's just wrong. The brain is producing, your brain, if you've had trauma, is producing stress chemicals 24/7. And then you go for 1 hour a week to the doctor or to the therapist. You need to not only have the therapy, but you need to be able to have these skills yourself. So you can use them in community. You can use them at 2 o'clock in the morning when no one really wants to talk to you. You can use them in small groups that are anonymous. You can use them and use them and use them. And that's how the brain changes with practice. So the old
That's what that
model
app
is not
does.
working. Hmm?
That's what that app does is allows you to do the work on your own in conjunction with the
Right.
therapy.
So on your app, you've got all of the tools so you can do it 24/7. You have a one-touch button where you can get into an EBT Spiral Up group where you can call in anonymously as part of this community and listen to someone who's really stressed with the provider who guides them to use the materials. Because when you're using it with the provider, so they're connecting with you, you go deeper in the brain and they go all the way up to joy, and you are transported as well. So you've got absolutely daily spiral up groups. And you also have, if you want, you can, for a little bit more, you can be in your own private group. The private group without a provider there, we have found does not use the tools the same way. When you're in a group, you need a parent, you need a guide, you need someone to say, okay, we're gonna make this safe doing this, or this person will go forward, let me guide you through so you're successful. So we have half-hour groups a week or hour groups a week or groups every day, so you always have the safety of having a certified EBT provider who is a health professional, not necessarily a mental health professional. These are skills training, but they're doctors or nurses or nutritionists or therapists. And so you have that option every single day. And then with your group, if you're in a group, you have 6 or 7 other people that are your family. And in your family group, you have on your phone anonymously, they don't know whether you live in Alaska or Florida or where, they know your first name, but you get to know these people really well because you have a button there and you can reach out to them and they can take those 5 minutes, no more than 8, and they'll listen to you or you'll listen to them. And our research that was conducted at the University of Kentucky showed that these connections, so that you have a family there where you can use these skills and everyone knows the rules, no judgment, don't interrupt each other, don't give advice, just listen to each other. And then afterwards, you give what we call connecting messages, where you say, when you did your work, the feelings in my body were, and the way it helped me in my own practice, my own inner practice was. So there's mutual intimacy and disclosure, and it only takes a few minutes.
I love it. How does someone get started? How do they get the app? How do they get connected to your organization and what it is you're doing?
There is only one place to go, and it's, food stamps is EBT, right? EBT
Yeah,
is food stamp. It's emotional brain training. So it's EBT, like food stamps, and it's .org. You go there, and we don't give the app out without full support because we know that people won't use it, and we don't believe in giving people the app when they can't, when we know that their brain is going to shut down. The brain needs love, it needs fun, it needs to do this with other people celebrating. So, included with the app is the daily support and all the videos. And we have more than 300 other videos of people using the tools and being inspired. And every week we have gatherings where people can come together and do, work on their stress overload and be inspired. So it's really a joyful environment, and it's ebt.org.
great. Well, we will put that in the show notes so that when people say, I need this, they know where to go for it. And I can't believe we are out of time. That this time has just gone by so quickly. And I'm just sitting here going, wow, it's going to take me a while to process all of this. But I thank you so much for all of this wonderful information today. I just really, really think that our listeners are going to reach out to you and take advantage of this. And I appreciate you very much.
And I appreciate you, Nancy. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And everyone, we thank you for listening today to Silent Strength. If you haven't already, please give us a quick review and rating on iTunes. And don't forget, you can follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube. And to wrap things up, often after a podcast, people want to know more about some of the things that we do at Invisible Warriors. And if you'd like to hop on a Zoom, my contact information will be in the show notes. So thank you again for tuning in and listening to today's conversation, and we will see you all soon. Take care and bye-bye.